The optimal diet for gut health, IBS. Let's talk about it. Let me share my screen with you real quick. That isn't working. There we go. Now, I didn't really have as much of a structure for this video. I wanted to just free flow it. So you can kind of skip through the video if that's what you want to do. But I'm going to mainly answer some common questions. We're going to go over like the FODMAP diet, the carnivore diet, what you should avoid, what you should eat, what my opinion on food is, what my diet is. Very basic, very easy, very simple. We're just going to kind of go over that. And I don't really know where to start. But I mean, first of all, I kind of want to just say that in terms of diet, your body is your best response. Now, probably people thinking from this video, you're expecting me to say, oh, the best diet is paleo diet, and here's exactly, but that's not always the case. I think there's some foundational principles that you need to follow in order to have a good diet. But unfortunately for you, it's not always like this is the best diet, one solution fits all. But I do think there are some principles. For example, we can start off here. Usually, when I'm assessing someone's diet, whenever I'm working with a new individual, I'm looking at the main 5 irritants, if you like. Have I got my? I guess we can use a post-it note. I'm looking at gluten. I'm looking at. This isn't really working, is it? No, let's not do that. Let's copy and paste this. So what I'm looking for is I usually tell someone when I'm auditing their diet, what does your diet look like? And I usually start off by assessing how much gluten, how much dairy. Why isn't this working? There we go. Seed oils. We're looking at refined sugar. And we're looking at alcohol. Okay, I can't type today. But also caffeine. But essentially, we want to look at these main irritants. If someone's having a lot of these, now I don't ever want to villainize food because that in itself is a problem. If you start becoming scared of food, if you start going into a meal, negatively, that is very bad. So I don't like to, ever say cut out or avoid or be scared of these foods. I just like to say let's reduce, let's limit it a little bit. And it's really important that while we work with diet, that your relationship with food stays positive. Okay. And there's many ways in which you can do that, but just please keep that in mind because it's very easy to become very restrictive and very scared. And if there's fear involved, any fear involved, then it becomes negative. We don't want to do that. But you could do this yourself. I would definitely have a look because these foods can become hard to digest. And it's not necessarily dairy. I spelled dairy wrong. It's the lactose in dairy. Now, there are some dairy that is really high lactose, right? Lactose is the protein that oftentimes people have struggled digesting, like lactose intolerance. And people have got issues a lot of the time, they have lactose intolerance. So ice cream, heavy creams, milks, these will be quite hard to digest for people who've got issues typically. Whereas kefir, butter, raw cheeses, these are low lactose, so tend to be easier. So just be aware of that. I don't think there's any reason why people should be eating white bread. Like if you want to have bread, go with sourdough. It's fermented, easy to digest. Seed oils, just research how seed oils are made and you won't want to eat them anyway. I know directly. And like if I have a shot of seed oils, I will not feel good at all. I know directly from learning from my body that if like no one can tell me that seed oils are healthy because I have them and feel awful. So, and that's something that I've learned because my body's in my best response. And again, I'm going to keep repeating that because that's what we need to do. But look at these irritants, okay? Look at this simple diet map of how much am I consuming of the modern diet and chronic diseases, the modern diet is just going worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. Okay, so you need to look at what is in the food sources right now. Have a look at this compared to what I believe is a healthy diet. Okay, lots of grass-fed, wild caught, fresh dairy, organic fruit if you can. Okay, fermented food. You've probably heard of this before. Like this is the foundation of what a healthy diet should be. Okay. And the absolute foundation of your diet should be whole foods. Okay. Who cares if it's paleo, whatever name you want to label what food? The foundation of it needs to be whole foods. It needs to be, you look at the back. You don't want to look at the back of a food and there's like 20 ingredients. Like that's basic. Okay. That's when you're going to get loads of preservatives, sweeteners, bunch of stuff that you don't even know, right? And that's what's going to cause issues for you, especially if you're sensitive and you have gut issues. Okay. Stick to whole foods. That's the foundation. Okay. A few questions that people would ask is especially about low FODMAP and carnivore, right? This is very popular. These are the trends at the moment. Okay. And low FODMAP's been around for a while. I think carnivore's picking up in terms of trends, but are these good? Right? Are these good? Are they worth doing? Yes, in the right case, right? These are tools. Low FODMAP carnivore, these kind of diets are restrictive, but they are tools. When people tell me they've been on low FODMAP for 10 years, I'm like, that's not really how it's meant to go. These are restrictive elimination diets, okay? Low FODMAP, especially if you're struggling, can be phenomenal because these are, I'm assuming you probably know what low FODMAP is. If you don't, I can always go into more detail, but I'm going to assume that you know what low FODMAP is. And maybe you're on it. But low FODMAP essentially cuts out high fermentable foods, okay? And it can be really, really good as a foundation if you're struggling. That's what I did. When I was struggling with gut issues, I switched to low FODMAP and it gave me some quick relief, right? And that's great because it gives you a quick win and you can start working on other areas of your gut, right? This is something you want to do for maybe 6 weeks. You want to get some relief. You want to actually work on your gut health because you're not really meant to be on the low FODMAP forever, right? I now eat raw garlic and whatever for fun because I'm not on low FODMAP. But we need to look at why is the fermentation of this food causing you such issues, right? If you have SIBO, if you have low stomach acid, then having high FODMAP foods can give you irritation. So giving you a low FODMAP diet would be good short term. Hopefully that makes sense. Same with carnivore. Carnivore is very restrictive. Some people feel phenomenal on it. I do not believe you should be on carnivore for longer than potentially 6 months if you want optimal gut health. Even the gurus who swear by carnivore, have kind of switched from carnivore because it's a tool. It's a tool. If you have extreme dysbiosis or you're really struggling, then great. Carnivore might be good for 3 months, right? Do that. Use it as a tool to help you get out of a difficult position and just really strip away a lot of irritating foods and have something really basic. Is it something you want to do long term? No. Okay. And I have some resources here about the carnivore diet long term in people, and you can see here the issues with it in terms of gut health. All right. Microbiome dysbiosis index is 5. It's in the red. Okay. You don't really want to be doing carnivore long term, especially looking at the GI health markers in people who are doing carnivore. Butyrate producing bacteria, which is really important for your gut lining. These are all imbalanced. So that's all you need to know. That long term, I don't think this is the best solution. Again, these are just tools. Okay. There's okay. And now my foundation for my diet is animal-based foundation, right? Eggs, grass-fed meat, wild-caught fish, organ meats. Although I don't tend to do organ meats, I tend to do supplements if I am doing organs. But this is the foundation, all right? Cooked vegetables that are easy tolerated, so zucchini, carrot, sweet potato, right? Fruits, fermented food, healthy fats. Obviously some carbs as well, like basmati rice, sweet potato. This is the bulk of my diet. And it works very well because it's very basic, okay? And do you need to follow this exact diet to get the results that I did? No. But I do think there are some foundational principles that you need to follow for whatever diet you choose. And these are the foundational principles. You need to replenish key minerals, potassium, sodium, magnesium. Okay. Be consistent, which also pairs up with make it sustainable. Okay. Because I can do this for the rest of my life. You need to make sure that you can do the diet that you pick and diet that you follow is sustainable. Can you do it every single day for the rest of your life? A lot of people on carnivore might not be able to do that. Prioritize nutrient density. Don't be scared of red meat, eggs, things. These are very high in nutrients. You need to be hitting all your micronutrients, right? Balance the plate. Don't have loads of fat or loads of protein. Have a good balance. Regulate your blood sugar. Okay, this isn't really talked about enough, but you need to make sure that you're not spiking your blood sugar with chocolate, right? If you are going to eat chocolate, at least eat a balanced meal before doing that because that tends to spike your blood sugar less. Okay. Those are and it's actually really simple, guys, in terms of diet. And I don't want to overcomplicate it. And let me discuss a few other things as well. Fiber. A lot of stuff about fiber recently. This will also tie into why does some people feel worse. Fiber is a double-edged sword. Okay. If you have an unhealthy gut, fiber can make you feel worse. Fiber, I mean, I like this little analogy. Fiber is like gym for your gut. But if your gut is injured, you need rehab first. Okay. If you have dysbiosis, which is an imbalance of gut bacteria, you have SIBO, you have whatever, fiber feeds microbes. It will make you feel worse. So if you feel worse on fiber, that's an indication that you need to work on other areas. Long term, someone who's healthy, who's got good gut health, then fiber obviously is very important. Both soluble and insoluble fiber are things you need to include in your diet. Okay, that is pretty straightforward. And there are some other things that I like to talk about when it comes to diet. Now, it can really depend on personal preference. Again, that's why I say your body is your best response. Okay, there are some things that you probably should look out for. Again, I said these aren't bad, but they're just personalized. They really depend on your situation. High FODMAPs. Again, people might need to avoid onions, garlic, apples temporarily. People will do this for 20 years, but you don't need to avoid garlic forever. You don't need to avoid onions, apples forever. You just need to do it for the time being while you work on your gut health. Ideally, like if you had SIBO, you would go low FODMAP, and then you would do stuff to help the SIBO as a protocol. You would work on other areas of your gut health, clear up the SIBO, and then you can introduce a more sustainable high FODMAP diet if you would like. Okay, lectins. I think lectins, especially with people who are struggling, lectins I would probably avoid. These are found in beans, grains, nuts. Okay, not all grains, but I mean, there's an art to that. You can pressure cook beans and then get all the lectins out, but that's just too. Unless you have like a pressure cooker at home, I wouldn't really bother too much with that. I mean, there are some evidence. Again, this is a little bit controversial, but there is some evidence to show that lectins can bind to the gut lining and disrupt the intestinal barrier. In my opinion, I would avoid beans, especially certain vegetables, seeds. Again, this is why it's interesting because people say, "Oh, do chia seeds," but very high in lectins. Is that actually what you need right now? Again, the reason people do chia seeds is because it's high in fiber. But is that what you need right now? I don't know. That's why conventional advice online is not great. And this is why this video for some of you might be very unsatisfying because it's not me giving you kind of the social media of you need to do this, you need to do that. It's me telling you you need to think for yourself and you need to try things for yourself, which isn't the sexy answer. I'll be real, but it's how it should be. Okay, I can give you some guidance, but there are some things that you need to try, and hopefully you're staying with this. But yeah, lectins can be a problem, especially if IBS and leaky gut, and even autoimmune conditions if you have IBD as well. But low grade inflammation can cause issues with the gut barrier. Okay, can feed bad bacteria. So people who have a healthy gut, they may be able to tolerate lectins, but you might want to be careful of lectins for the time being. Okay. Now, my diet, I tell people my diet is animal based low lectins. That's what I do. Animal based low lectins. And that's what works for me. That's what I feel good on. I don't get any bloating. I feel great. I mean, if I did have lectins, I wouldn't feel too bad, but I just tend to avoid them based on what I know. Okay. Nightshades as well. Like, I can't tell you that you can't have nightshades because nightshades they vary from person to person. Nightshades will include white potato, peppers, a few other things that I can't remember. But if you look up nightshades, you will find the full list. And that just makes you can start being aware. The most important thing that you learn from this video is that you become aware. You need to eat a food and then see how you feel. You need to make changes and see how you feel. Okay. Like for me, for example, I've learned throughout the years that if I have too much white potato, I will feel a bit sluggish. So I know that I'm slightly sensitive to nightshades. If I have 500 grams of white potato, I will feel more sluggish than if I had 500 grams of sweet potato. I know I'm a little bit sensitive to nightshades and lectins. That's what I found out. And I feel as though people with gut issues and IBS will probably be the same. That's why I want you to be aware of it because you may have never known this. But now, when you go and have beans, or now when you go have white potato, you'll know like, oh, that's a lectin. Maybe I'm sensitive because I felt worse the next day. That's the most important thing that you can get from this video. Sweeteners as well, especially if you're dealing with SIBO, which most people with IBS are dealing with SIBO. Sweeteners don't digest in the stomach. They start fermenting in the small intestine, gas, bloating. So if you're getting that, definitely cut it out. So things like sucralose, you definitely want to be careful of. I mean, again, don't fear this stuff. Like if you were to have, like I have sweeteners here and there, of course, but like if you're having it every single day, then it is going to have its effect. And there are some studies to show that it does disrupt the bacterial communication, right? It does disrupt the microbiome over the long term. Okay, and you can have a look at these studies if you like. I'm not going to go through it with you because that is too much for this video. I don't want to make this video too long, so but you can start to see how artificial sweeteners can negatively impact. Okay, and I know a lot of people online like, oh yeah, the Cokes are fine because there's no sugar, it's got sweeteners. Okay, let's use some common sense now here. Okay, um, again, I think that's mainly it because it's not that complicated, guys. You just need to be aware. And I wasn't going to show you this, but why not? Inside my coaching program, we have a lot of resources in Notion and we have these food lists. Again, this is why it's really important because if you're someone who has gastritis, right, then you need to be obviously doing the gastritis avoid list. It can really, really, really depend on the individual cases. And again, this is why a one size fits all doesn't work. Maybe you're struggling with histamine, so you need the histamine list. Maybe you have reflux, you need the reflux list. Okay, maybe you need some ideas for fiber. Okay, this is my kind of green light list, if you like, that I give to all my clients, which has all the kind of, I don't know, green light foods that I like. Gives some ideas of how my diet looks as well. Here you can see, but it's really individual, and it does require some nuance. It requires some understanding to know exactly what's best for you, and one size isn't best for all. That's why it's really important to customize your approach. This is also the lacto list, which I talked about, which has like the lower lactose versions compared to high lactose versions. But yeah. And this video realistically could be very long. But I wanted to make it as simple as possible. I do have the fructose list as well if you want it. Like for example, you could try eating figs and apricots or dried fruits. And if you realize, oh, on the days when I was having these, I started getting gut issues, well, you know that you might have some sensitivities to fructose, which is probably high FODMAP, which if you have IBS and gut issues, that probably is the case. Okay. So you might just want to pick some lower fructose so it's easy to digest. Because the whole point is if you're struggling to digest food right now, cool. Let's just have a diet that's really simple. Let's have a diet that it might not be the optimal diet with the best sustainability and the best balance and the best micronutrients. Like for example, I know that grass-fed beef is one of the best foods to have, but when I was struggling, I couldn't have it because also it's one of the best foods to have, but it's one of the hardest to digest. So it might be okay to cut out things that are really good for you because they're hard to digest for now. Let's make it really easy on our symptom. Let's heal our gut, and then we can introduce um, a more sustainable, better diet, if you like, more long term. Okay. I think that's all I kind of wanted to cover. And again, the main foundation is your best guide is your body's response. But this is people always asking what my diet looks like, and it's pretty much this what I've talked about. And I've shown you the list as well now, so you can have a look at that. I think that's kind of everything I wanted to go through. And then also you have to understand that this is only one pillar of gut health. People all the time will say, "Oh, I eat clean, I go gym, but I still get gut issues." This is just your foundation, right? This is just diet is just your foundation. You need to make sure this is good. Apparently, I can't spell. Okay. You need to make sure this is good. This is like building a house. We need to make sure the diet is the foundation. The diet is good. Then we can actually build the walls and the roof and the windows and the door to actually make good gut health. Okay. If we have a look at my pillared system, which I don't actually think I have on here, I don't have one here, but diet and nutrition is the first step. And then we have to do stuff for your microbiome. We have to do stuff for your gut lining, for your mental and emotional health. So if you do all of this in terms of diet and you're still slightly struggling, don't freak out. There's a lot of stuff that we need to do. And if you need any more support with this in kind of customizing your diet and you need help, entirely with your gut health, because this is only step one, then feel free to go into the link in my bio. I'm actually going to show you what this looks like. Go to the link in my bio, and essentially it'll send you to this page. And you can book a free discovery call if you like. And essentially, we're going to discuss your issues. We're going to see if I can help you, how we can potentially help you in our coaching programs as well. Many different options. You can watch this training video as well if you want, which kind of explains my story and what I do for people. So yeah, I think that's it. Again, follow me on socials, TikTok, Instagram. Again, let me do one last thing. On Instagram, I asked people to give me some questions for diet. Let me see if there's any ones I haven't covered. I think I covered most of the ones. I do little Q&As on my Instagram story. Where are we? Here. So if you guys want to follow me on Instagram, then you can kind of put in your questions if you like, or you can just DM me. But I'll put that in the description as well. So nice and easy. Someone was asking about kind of the best foods for the gym that are less likely to irritate people. Again, I don't think there are best foods for the gym. I think it's literally follow this. And if you're trying to bulk, eat more of it. You know what I'm saying? And you can have more calorie dense foods. Have a little bit more butter. Don't be afraid of fat. But it's really important that you need to make sure that your gut health is good before you start bulking. Otherwise, that's going to be a mess. And you're not going to have a very successful bulk if you do not improve your gut health. Any questions, let me know. But until next time, that is it.